I love Hanukkah. Each night I look forward to lighting my menorah and sitting in a darkened room and letting my thoughts go wherever they may while the candles flicker. Usually my thoughts are very pleasant, very contented, but when I lit my first candle last Friday night, my thinking was anything but happy. We had just lost Bob Mendler the night before, and my heart was heavy for the Mendler family, for myself, and for our whole congregation. The light of the first candle did absolutely nothing to illuminate the darkness of my mood. A very strange thing happened as I sat and watched the second, the third, the fourth candles burn. I came to understand that God, in His infinite wisdom, took Bob at the most appropriate possible time, and I found that comforting. Hanukkah celebrates miracles. We put the focus of Hanukkah on the miracle of one night's worth of oil burning for 8 nights, but I really don't think that is the true Hanukkah miracle. The real miracle is survival. The idea of a tiny little group of Maccabees winning a military victory over the immensely powerful Syrians is totally ridiculous. Anyone would know that it just wasn't possible. But with God's help, they did it. And because they did it, Judaism survived. As I thought about that, I thought about how much like the Hanukkah story Bob Mendler's life was. None of Bob's family survived the Holocaust. I know from conversations I had with him that 89 people in his immediate and extended family were killed, and he fully expected to die with them. According to him, it was just a question of when, not if, his own death would come. But God was with Bob, and he did not die. To me, that was as much of a miracle as the victory of the Maccabees over the Syrians. Most of us make the mistake of believing that miracles only happened in biblical times, or we think they have to be accompanied by a lot of Hollywood-style glitter and flash. Bob's miracle wasn't either of those. He was an ordinary man who was saved from an inhuman experience. When it was all over, he continued to be an ordinary man. He was a loving husband, a good father, and a loved and respected community member, just like most other men. That was Bob's second miracle. It defies comprehension for most of us that anyone could go through and watch 6 million others go through what he did without becoming a bitter, vindictive, hate-filled person or a beaten-down, demoralized person. But Bob did neither. With the help of his faith, he put his life back together and looked forward, not back. We can all learn something from that about the nature of our God. We've all prayed the prayer that asks, "Who am I that you should be mindful of me, O Lord?" The answer is that most of us are just ordinary people doing ordinary things. But that doesn't mean that we aren't as loved and precious in the sight of God as the people that we humans decide are special or holy or great. As Bob approached his later years and saw many of his fellow survivors dying, it became important to him to talk about his own Holocaust experience. That was the beginning of his third miracle. He never refused to talk to any school or group who requested his presence. The legacy he chose to leave behind was education. We will never know how many people have become a little more loving, a little more tolerant, or a little less prejudiced because they heard Bob talk about the horrors of what can happen when one group of people think they are better than another. I know from an extended interview I did with Bob some years ago that he would endure any amount of personal pain if it meant educating others and creating a more peaceful world. Is it anything less than a miracle that this man with a 7th grade education was Dr. Mendler by the time he left us? I hope Bob never doubted the success of his efforts to use education as a tool to create a more loving world. The people attending his funeral were all the proof anyone would need to know that, at least here in Latrobe, it worked. It was very gratifying to see people of all faiths and races come to pay homage to the man who didn't care what color they were or where they worshiped God. One of the things I wondered about as I watched the enormous crowd gather for Bob's funeral was how many of them had ever let him know how much they thought of him while he was still alive to hear it. Why do we wait until someone is gone to appreciate him? This is the season of miracles, and I think having people to love and people to love us is the greatest miracle of all. Look around you. Look at the spouse, the child, the friend, the grandchild who is sitting beside you. Have you ever told that person how much they mean to you? Have you told them lately? None of us know for sure that we will be here tomorrow, so please let the people you love hear about it today. If someone is one of the miracles in your life, they should hear about it now. It will make the glow of the lights in the menorah much brighter for them and for you also. Have a happy Hanukkah.